Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Chad here with Iraq veteran Eddie at 88. We thought it would be a pretty prudent thing to make a public service announcement. We don't normally do this type of video on a regular basis, but there's a lot of things going on in the 2A community right now that I feel are in some cases being ignored, and we really need to be paying attention to this stuff. We're going to break right into it with the most interesting thing that's kind of come to light recently is something called the White Paper.
Yeah, and this is something that kind of broke after our recent gun gripe, call to action gun gripe, where we were discussing like the petitions to repeal the NFA and the Hughes Amendment. And,
which you need to go over and sign right now. Pause the video. Go sign them. Make sure you check your dang email.
Yes.
Because it doesn't count unless you check your email. Go sign the dang petition right now.
Look, there are pertinent links in the description box below for both petitions, and we're going to be talking about the HPA, and there will be some information about the ATF White Paper that we're going to discuss. But pretty much everything that we've been saying over the past several months is kind of coming to light now. But what's surprising is the lack of enthusiasm in the 2A community, or at least what we see as a lack of enthusiasm. I mean, the Repeal the NFA petition's been floating around for a few weeks now, and it's like, it's gotten to 60,000 signatures, but just to get to 10,000 was such an effort, it wasn't even funny. Like, everybody was posting, everybody was sharing.
Why haven't a million people signed it?
But it's just, I don't know, it's one of those things that some people just don't really care about. But if you're a 2A supporter, then you should care about everything pro-gun, especially right now, because I want to make this very, very clear. There will never be an opportunity that we have right now ever again. You have so many conservatives in positions, in governmental positions all across the country. There's the White House, the Congress, governors, state legislatures. It's never been like this since the 20s, people, okay? So this opportunity has to be, basically, you got to grab the bull by the horns. You got to ride it right now. Otherwise, we're going to lose it, okay? So this is the best opportunity we have to get pro-gun legislation put through.
Yeah, guys, you can't just say you're pro-gun. You have to be pro-gun. You have to walk the walk and talk the talk. You can say you're pro-gun all day long, but guys, we've got to get out there. You got to call all your representatives. You got to make sure that they support HPA because, these bills, sometimes they just kind of get left on the cutting room floor, and sometimes they lay around for a while. I mean, the HPA was introduced in 2015.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
in a minute, Yeah. So, guys, don't let this thing go by. We've got to bark up all these pertinent trees. So, we're getting off on different tangents. Let's focus on the White Paper.
Let's start with the White Paper. So, there was a document that was leaked, okay, called the ATF White Paper. It's basically more or less an internal memo, and it's from the director of the ATF, basically to all his subsidiaries, and it's just things that kind of come up for discussion and whatnot throughout the year and whatnot, and things that probably will be regulated or deregulated or amended or whatever the case is within the ATF. I mean, and one of the interesting points, one of the main points is the section about suppressors. Now, you can read the paper, okay, the link is in the description box below, okay, to the document. But it's basically, the director of the ATF is basically saying that suppressor sales are higher than they've ever been. More and more people are getting into NFA, getting into suppressors, and there's a public knowledge that these devices are not dangerous and evil and only tools of assassins like we would be made to believe by the media and by Hollywood and whatnot. There's public awareness and there's public acceptance, more so ever, of suppressor ownership in the states now.
Not to mention data. Lots of data to back up the claims. It's not just a claim. It's actually backed up by data and research as well.
But also, the White Paper even goes into the details of criminal activity using said items. And it's so minuscule that they deem it to not even be an iota of issue for public safety at all. I mean, there's no public safety concern whatsoever.
To a degree, it even really discusses like the cost of enforcing such rules and the gains that enforcing those rules are so minimal that they don't even justify the amount that the taxpayers are having to spend to have all these people employed in order to take on these projects that aren't really doing anything. Well, and they're finally starting to see the light and realize how dumb some of these laws are.
Well,
you get into stuff like the braces.
Well, the braces too, and that's another interesting thing too, is there's a section about the arm braces, and it looks like there might be some clarification brought out about the arm braces and the difference between misuse of a said item and a redesigning of a said item. Basically, in the recent ATF opinion letters, those two have been combined. So if you misuse the brace, then you have redesigned the firearm in question. So if you use the brace on the shoulder on a pistol, then you've redesigned it into an SBR, and then therefore you've committed an illegal act. All right.
I think it's safe to say there's enough data, not to interrupt, but there's enough data out there, I believe now, to prove that just because a rifle's in a short configuration is irrelevant.
It's arbitrary.
I think if anything needs to happen, they need to just do away with that whole SBS, SBR crap anyway at all, and just not even make it a thing, and then it's not an issue.
That's kind of where the whole repeal the NFA comes in.
Sure.
And it is a petition that's going around right now. At the current time, it's got about 60,000 signatures. It needs 100,000 by February the 19th in order to have a response from the White House. If we don't get 100,000 signatures on this document, then it's just going to probably disappear, okay? Now, the NFA is the National Firearms Act of 1934, which is touted as a very unconstitutional law that was put through. And it includes items such as short-barreled rifles, that being a rifle with a barrel length of less than 16 inches and a shorter overall length of, I think, 26 inches, okay? Shotguns with barrels less than 18 inches. Okay, and then you have like the arbitrary category, any other weapons, that kind of covers everything else, and destructive devices, suppressors, and even handguns were touted to be on that bill, or they were going to be on that bill, but they got pulled out at the last minute, basically. So the NFA could have included handguns that we know and love and use every day, but it is a very unconstitutional rule that was put in place in 34, and the tax that was put on the ownership of those items was so great that it put it out of the reach of pretty much the entire general populace. And that was the idea. But the tax nowadays is a nuisance tax. It's not really something that's detrimental. I mean, back in 34, you could just about buy a used car for $200.
Well, if you read the white paper and you read the information contained therein, Ronald Turk, the director of the ATF, if you read that paper, it even goes on to talk a little bit about some of the data related to the employees they have to have on and everything like that.
Yep.
They're starting to see the aspect of, well, yeah, $200 is a nuisance. Like, we have to hire these like 55, specific people to do this job, and the money we get in doesn't even pay for it. So it's like, at a point that the enforcement costs more than the benefit, and really, in this case, there is no benefit. It's just unconstitutional. So why? So for one, like, you're paying for your own torture. Like, how does that work? So what? So I'm gonna like pay the executioner to chop my head off? No. It's just unconstitutional to begin with. But the problem is people have been used to it for so long, and they've been spoon-fed by the media, and they've been spoon-fed by not just the media, but a lot of different, improper methods of teaching. Let's just put it that way. A lot of bad information's been getting put out about it. And they just don't understand what they truly lost. And to think that the NFA Act, the 34 NFA Act could have included handguns, imagine us having this conversation right now where handguns were put on the registry like they intended for it to be. And then people, you'd have all these people saying, oh, you don't need handguns. So don't let them win, guys. The point of this video, you have got to contact all of your representatives. Make sure you know who they are. And guys, even if you don't know who they are, go on the NRA's website. They've got a list that lists by state who those people are that you need to contact. They even have, in a lot of cases, like a prefab letter. All you have to do is just sign for certain issues. But write a letter, call them, email them. Do not give up, because we will never have this opportunity again. And I'll play devil's advocate briefly. We were talking a little bit about, in the previous video where we talked about gun owners being complacent, we're kind of rehashing it a little bit, okay, that gun owners are being very complacent right now, and that's not good. Complacency is what got us the crime bill.
Yep.
And not complaining about it. People thinking, well, things are fine, it's never going to happen. We've got to keep our ear to the ground, and we've got to fight this tooth and nail, because we've never had a better opportunity.
Well, the thing is, too, after the crime bill was put in, there was a big upheaval in the Congress the next election cycle, a huge upheaval. I mean, basically, the left lost their seats in the Congress after that bill was passed, because so many people were pissed off about it.
Rightly so.
But, the NFA is just, it's an antiquated law that really just needs to go away. Now, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, okay? Because I like NFA. There's a lot of gun owners out there that's kind of the next step for them. I mean, they are fun. They're awesome guns. But, you know, being a law-abiding gun owner, you have to play by the rules.
Yeah.
And some people argue that, oh, well, you know, free men don't ask permission, this, that, and the other. Well, guess what? I mean, it's $200. It's the next step for me, so I don't really care. And if you're worried about people knowing about you, or the government knowing about you, then if you have a cell phone, I mean, or a Facebook page or anything like that, then they probably already know about you. They've already got, you got a social security card, you got a driver's license. I mean, come on, people. Take off your tinfoil hats.
Yeah, I think it also has to do, a really good kind of addition to that statement is that I think that there's also a duty to be honorable. I think that people need to have a duty to do the honorable thing. And guess what? I don't like driving slow. I like to drive fast everywhere I go. But if the speed limit says it's a certain speed limit, I try my best to drive the speed limit. Is it stupid? Yes. Is the speed limit purposely low because they know everybody drives 15 or 20 miles an hour faster than that? Yes. But it's the law. We have laws for a reason. Everybody can say this, oh, I'm not a slave thing, all they want. Look, it doesn't matter. You have to obey the law. We are a country of laws, and we are a country of honorable people who follow the law. And just because you're willing to follow the law, that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person for wanting to do the right thing. You should do the right thing. But to kind of back up Chad's statement, you know, we have to make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure that the laws that we are made to follow or that we willingly follow, because we live in a civilized society of laws and order, right? And of people doing the right thing. Because we live in that society, we also are shepherds of making sure that the laws we are made to follow make sense and represent our best interests. And I think that's kind of what we're getting at here.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I mentioned, it's a double-edged sword, okay? So people will play by the rules, and they'll register these items and such. They'll buy the suppressors, they'll register their SBRs and SBSs, okay? But you don't have to like it. You know, you can say, well, you know, I don't really appreciate this, but I do it because it's the law, but I want to see the law changed. So that's exactly what the petition is for. Now, on the other hand, if you just sit on the sidelines and say, well, I'm not going to own any of those items because I don't want to pay the tax on this, that, and the other, and it's my right and I don't need to pay the tax, well, you're not showing a public demand for those items. So it's like you don't show the demand for it and it's probably going to stay. But if you go out and you register these items and you just own them because you want to, and then you can say, well, you know what, let's just get rid of this thing because it's antiquated. You can see that none of these items are ever used in crime, or a very, very tiny percent of them.
The more of them are out there, the more of them contribute to the positive data that we're looking for. The more people own them, and obviously they don't get used in crimes ever.
And that's a stigma that's put on by Hollywood and the left and the media and such. Handguns get used in crime way more than anything else, and cheap handguns at that. We've done a video on that in the past.
Well, you want to talk about like double-edged sword. How about a triple-edged sword? All right, so here's the other edge of the three-edged sword, okay? Is what about people that are pro-gun, or on the surface they're pro-gun, but they're only, oh, well, you should only have a 5-round bolt gun, or you should only have a 3-shot shotgun for shooting geese or something like that.
Well, you know,
well, look, guys, if you're one of those people like, what do y'all need suppressors for? So see, you have to think, there are some pro-gun people that don't think suppressor ownership should be common. They don't think short-barrel rifles and short-barrel shotguns are needed. They don't think people should own machine guns. Basically, FUDs. We've talked about FUDs before. You might be a FUD. But look, don't sit out on this one because it's very important. The same people that support black rifles and suppressors and NFA and all the neat toys that we love to play with are also the same people that are going to go over and sign petitions for things like, oh, well, your favorite duck hunting land is about to get reappropriated and you're not going to be able to hunt ducks anymore. Or all the things that are pro-hunters and pro-hunting heritage and everything like that. I mean, guys, do you not think that like we don't support that stuff too? So you can't just sit on the sideline and say, oh, well, you know, these young kids, they ain't got no business doing all this when, hey, guess what? These young kids are signing these petitions and talking to our representatives. Anything that comes up related to hunting, whether it's ducks or deer or protecting our fishing waters, you know, federal, protection of fishing.
Any conservation program.
I mean, conservation, exactly, is where I'm looking for. You know, we're active in conservation efforts too. So don't think that just because a guy wants to buy a suppressor and own it without a whole bunch of crap, an unconstitutional rigmarole, that he automatically, oh, well, screw you and your 3-shot duck gun. Guys, I've got duck guns too, okay? It doesn't mean that you can't own other cool stuff too. You know, and people have that negative stigma about gun owners. They think, oh, well, this guy's got an AR, so he's obviously some serial killer or something. I mean, but it's okay to have hunting rifles too. I mean, it's just, I think that's important to mention in this video because there seems to be a separation in the gun community. I mean, we're divided in many cases.
In a lot of cases, yeah. I mean, I see comments on some of our videos, and like where we've mentioned the NFA petition or repeal the NFA petition, and folks are like, why do y'all need machine guns? We don't need those back because somebody will just go shoot up a school and then we'll lose all our rights. Like, come on,
That's
people.
a very bad attitude to have.
That's
exactly what they want.
That's the mentality that's been put into people's, or brainwashed into people's minds,
Yep.
that has been perpetrated by Hollywood, perpetuated,
Elmer Fudd,
perpetrated by the anti-gun media and anti-gunners in Hollywood and such as that. That's exactly what they want you to think.
I agree.
But all right, machine guns. All right. Perfect example. There's another petition to repeal the Hughes Amendment. The Hughes Amendment was a last-minute amendment put onto a very pro-gun bill back in '86 called FOPA, the Firearms Owners Protection Act. We're not going to go into that, but the Hughes Amendment was tacked on, okay, because at the time you could put amendments through and the president couldn't veto the entire bill, okay? I mean, he couldn't veto just sections of the bill. He had to veto the entire thing. So the NRA and all these pro-gun guys said, just sign it because the FOPA as it sits is worth losing machine guns. The Hughes Amendment removed machine guns from civilian purchase after May of '86. So before that time, you could just go into a store and you could purchase a machine gun. It would sit on that Class 3 dealer's shelf until your ATF paperwork came back. You had to register it and pay $200. Okay? If the Hughes Amendment never happened, you could still do that today. But now the prices on transferable machine guns, that is machine guns that were registered and owned prior to 1986, okay, they have skyrocketed. A drop-in auto sear, a tiny little piece of metal, okay, that you can drop into your lower on your AR-15, and it has a little sear on there, and you can make your gun full auto. Those are about $12,000 on the low end. Okay?
And they shouldn't be. There's no reason for them
It's
to be.
a tiny piece of metal, but it's supply and demand.
I mean,
but
we don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but then you can get into the whole idea of, well, I was an adult back in the 80s and I bought, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of this stuff, and now it's worth, 30 times what I paid for it, and screw you kids, you shouldn't be able to have it. But, I disagree. I think that a true gun-loving person should just be okay with that and just understand that that's a cost of doing that and living in that time. I mean, things change.
It is.
Know?
I mean, I'd love
I think it's selfish for somebody to be like, well, yeah, I don't want my $100,000 Thompson not be worth anything now. Well, it's still always going to be a Thompson. They don't make them anymore.
Yeah, well, you need to sign that petition as well. NFA petition and the Hughes Amendment petition need to be signed by everybody in order to get a response from the White House. Now, we're going to talk about the HPA, okay, the Hearing Protection Act. This is something that is it's been pushed and pushed and pushed, and people say, oh, it's going to get passed. I mean, we'll just sit back and let it go and no big deal. Well, it's kind of come back to bite some people in the butt, okay? So one of the major proponents of the HPA was Silence Co. And there was a recent article where Silence Co. is laying off some people and sales are low and everything, and it's because of the enthusiasm, which is a good thing, about the HPA. All right? Now,
wanting it to pass doesn't mean it's going to. You have to still do the footwork.
They think that it's just a done deal and that, I'm just going to wait and buy a suppressor. Well, you might be waiting a while, okay? Now, the Hearing Protection Act originally was introduced in 2015, all right? It didn't go anywhere, okay? It didn't go anywhere because we didn't have the control of Congress like we needed or the president that we needed to sign a bill like that.
But don't assume that just because we do now,
that is an automatic thing.
It's just an automatic thing. You've still got to beat the bushes and make sure these people know that your voice needs to be heard. I mean, we've got to continuously show a demand for suppressor ownership. And the big thing is, guys, buying suppressors. Now, I'm not trying to say go out and buy suppressors, but I'm saying go out and buy suppressors because you need to. We've been, and I've probably bought more suppressors in the last 8 months than I ever have in the last 10 years because I know that the importance of showing that demand is very strong and very important. Guys, even if you buy the cheapest 22 can you can, who cares? Buy a can because it shows the desire for people to own these items. Very important.
If you haven't heard about the HPA and you've been living under a rock, you really have because everybody's been talking about it. Hearing Protection Act. It is basically a piece of legislation that will remove suppressors from the NFA registry and allow them to be purchased over the counter, just like a firearm. All right, now there's people that complain about that. Oh, it's just an accessory. It's just like a muzzle brake. Boo-hoo. All right, if they get pulled off the registry and they get transferred just like a firearm, whatever. Whatever. You know, all right, that's another thing that's in the white paper is, like Eric said, the extra people that the ATF has hired, all the overtime that they've paid. I mean, all the mess and the time that it takes to process Form 4s for suppressors is just phenomenal.
They are beginning to see the fiscal irresponsibility of the entire operation.
Not only that, but also...
And that's very important.
Also 41F. You know, the National Firearms Act, or National Firearms Act Trade and Collectors Association put this through, and that thing backfired big time because ATF did all kinds of crazy stuff. The only good thing that came out of 41F was the Clio sign-off was removed, and it's just a notification now, so that's great for individuals, but for trusts, it sucks. It sucks. You know, Silencer Shop is trying to make it easy, but if you got to do paper forms, it sucks. Getting fingerprints for like 3 trustees or however many trustees, it blows. But they're starting to realize that it's all this trouble and all this time, and they could just take all that away.
I know.
So there's light at the end of the tunnel, but you people have to do the legwork. You have to contact your local representatives. You have to contact everybody, okay? And you need to tell them that they need to pull the Hearing Protection Act out of committee, and they need to put it on the floor for a vote. And you need to tell them why. You don't just need to go out there and say, hey, you guys need to just pass this HPA. Okay, bye. You need to express your concern about it and why it is important to you. And the reason it's important to me is because suppressors coming off of the registry would be a huge step forward in regaining some of our constitutional rights. I mean, a suppressor is just a muzzle device. It really is. But it helps with noise pollution. All right, so if you're shooting in your backyard or whatever, your neighbors don't like you shooting that much, you put a suppressor on there, then it's all quiet and fun. It protects your hearing. I've taught my children how to shoot using suppressors.
Great for hunting.
It's excellent for hunting. There's a myriad of other reasons. Yep. You know, but anyways, you can go find out about that.
I mean, who cares what you use them for? It's your right. I mean, if no other reason, that's your right to be able to own it. Why does it matter? So, you know, I know Chad's on a roll.
Sorry,
here.
but it's the public. It's the public awareness that really comes to play. I mean, that you need to tell all your friends and everything about suppressors, about NFA stuff, and make them know that this stuff is not illegal. That's the big stigma is, oh, that's illegal. No, it's not.
Well, you know, by continuously making these videos, that's really our point. No, it's fine. That's really our point, is to make sure that people understand what their rights really are and what they need to do to keep their rights. I mean, you know, the big thing in this video, the white paper, go read it. Make sure you understand it. Contact all of your reps. Everybody you possibly can. I don't care if it's a secretary. Complain to everybody. And make your voice be heard about the Hearing Protection Act. That's very important.
That's number one.
All right, that's number one. You know. But definitely. And then number 3, make sure you go over there and sign those dang petitions. Now, are the petitions going to do anything? Maybe not. But don't assume they won't.
Look.
See, if you give up before you've even tried, then you're not fighting, are you? You have to give it a fair chance. Now, there's people that say, well, Trump is not obligated to honor the system that Obama started. Okay, fair enough. He doesn't have to, technically, if he doesn't want to. And then there's other people that say, well, we have the ear of Trump because the NRA endorses him. So obviously the NRA can just call him up and say, hey, this is what we need done, and then maybe we can get something done, you know? Yeah, you could maybe walk out on that vein a little bit, but don't assume that everything doesn't matter or have a consequence. Guys, we have to walk the walk. For the last 8 years, we've been talking the talk. We've been pumping it up. We've really been trying to put the word out there and make sure people understand when their rights are being threatened.
Well, people have been they've been fighting against anti-gun legislation fervently, with passion. But then now, all of a sudden, they're quiet.
It's Can't stop, guys.
I mean, all this pro-gun legislation that could come down the pipeline, and people are just like, doop, 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 doop.
I mean, take an hour or 2 of your time and just you can make a difference with just a little bit of time. You know, and we don't do these type of videos often, but this is one of those instances where, guys, we got to rally the troops. This is really important.
There's always so much information, you know, and like we've mentioned, some of the other stuff in the white paper that's really awesome. The importation of surplus firearms that were restricted by Obama.
Absolutely.
Okay, the M1 Garands and carbines and 1911s and such that were going to come in from South Korea, they got just shut down. Like, oh, nope, can't bring them in.
What about arbitrary bullcrap like the 7-in-6 ban? You could see an end to the 7-in-6.
The 7-in-6 ban, the importation bans that have been put down the pipeline.
Yeah, what about getting Norinco SKSs and M14s and Norinco 1911s and cool stuff like that? You know, there's plenty of cool stuff out there.
This type of activism, signing these petitions, contacting your representatives about the HPA is a start, okay? These things get pushed down the pipeline, then other things might follow. You know, we could maybe see the import bans go away. But it takes groundwork and it takes effort on everybody in the pro-gun community side in order to get these things done. You have to show that there's a demand for these changes to the current laws.
We have the tools currently available to us to make this happen.
Social
and the
media
tools have never been more available to us than they are right now. We've never had the ingredients necessary to craft our freedom like we do right now. So guys, don't sit by and just smell it wafting by. You need to reach over with a spoon and dab you out a little bit of that, slap it on your plate, and give it a try.
Oh, even with the little bee in there.
The little bee, you might like what you get. So, guys, I know this video is kind of long, but look,
long-winded.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry.
You know, look, if some of you guys are riding to work or you're riding home from work, some of you guys got a long ride, stick one of these videos on in the background and listen to it. Maybe change your mind a little bit.
Might get a laugh out of it.
You might get a laugh or you might get a cry, but that's okay. But the thing is, guys, we can't sit on the sidelines for this. We have always been the first people to try our best to put this kind of information out to you guys. We'd like to think that when people watch this channel, they're pro-gun. Maybe they are definitely gun nuts like we are. So it's very important to all of us. We appreciate any support we can get. It really means a lot to us for you to watch these videos. Guys, we have a lot more videos on the way, more gun gripes, more firearms facts. We do a series called The Meltdown. That's a lot of fun, where we shoot machine guns to failure, which is kind of fun. We've got all different kind of gun reviews, antique guns. We got a bunch of antique guns we're going to be taking out, some older mill syrups and doing some work with soon. So guys, thank you so much for the support. We appreciate you listening to us. Guys, don't sit on the dang couch. Get up and do something, please.
Description box below.
Take a second.
Find your reps. Sign the petitions. Go support the HPA. Boom, data, done.
See you on the other side, boys.
See you on the other side. The upside
Have a good
down.
one. We'll see you next time. We appreciate the support.
Bye, guys.